Hamish, thanks for joining me today.
Aaron, it's an absolute pleasure.
I'm so excited that we could finally make this happen and that you've got the time to join me. For those that don't know, Hamish is just one of the most unbelievably happening drummers you will ever come across. He laughs, but it's true. It's completely true. So I'm very glad to get to have a chat to him about some of the music that has inspired him and had an impact upon his concept. So we'll start with the who, what, why, where, when. What got you into music? What got you into the drums? Where did it kind of all begin for you, Hamish?
Okay, well, I have mentioned this before. Thank you for the introduction, by the way. That's very kind of you. I have an elder brother, and he's quite, like he's 8 years older than me or something like that. And he was really, he's a musician and a studio owner, and he went to Berkeley, studied arranging and composition. He's really a beautiful musician, well-rounded, plays conga drums, started on guitar, plays conga drums, plays steel guitar,
right,
writes for people, records for people. Amazing. John Stuart, amazing man, wonderful brother. And of course, because I was much younger than him, I just idolized him as a child, the elder brother sort of thing. And he had bands,
right,
at home in the garage rehearsing.
Yep.
And prior to that, I would say, my mum and dad had the pop music of the time, which was kind of Burt Bacharach and Sergio Mendes and
right, like Brazil '66 kind of thing.
Yeah, that's it. That's
yeah,
right.
Right.
Probably whistle thing off that.
Yep.
Yeah, and of course, as a sort of 9-10-year-old, the Beatles happened and the Rolling Stones, and I also loved singing back then. I used to sort of sing along with everything. So there was this kind of music in the house. My mum and dad weren't musicians or anything, but there was just music in the house. And John had all the kind of records. He was a record buyer back in those days,
right,
as a teenager. And so there was a lot going on. There was the kind of mainstream downstairs with mum and dad, and there was kind of Bob Dylan and strange. There was jug band, like John had a jug band at one point. It was amazing.
Right, okay.
So I heard all this really amazing sort of music, some of which I loved. And when I remember when he got to Coltrane, I just didn't get it.
Yeah, right.
I would walk past his room, and you could hear people come up the stairs.
Yep.
And my room was past his room. I walked past his room, and he just opened the door, grabbed me on the shoulder, pulled me inside, sit me down in front of the stereo, and just go, listen to this. And it would either be, John Lee Hooker or something like that. Eventually, it was Coltrane. I was like, this is horrible. Can I leave? I don't understand.
Yep.
Later on, I would sneak into his room and listen to those records.
Yep.
But so the first one, I guess, who is my brother very much. And what was the next one? What? Oh, yeah. What got me to the drums?
Or what
Well,
was like one of the first things that really caught your ear, like you're just obsessed with?
Well, I guess it was like the Beatles. I can still sing, anyone who had a heart, or like the Bacharach thing. I know most of those shit. All those sort of beautiful Carlos Urban tunes. The melodies are kind of locked in my bones somewhere from my parents, and
yep.
So it's hard to spot it. I think the thing for me is that I really did. I love the idea of singing, and the Beatles and anything like Burt Bacharach or whatever that had a vocal thing. I loved that. I could sing along with it, and I loved that. It was thrilling to me.
Yep.
But the thing that really changed for me was when John was rehearsing his bands in the garage. I couldn't go, I would sit there like a kid and just, love what was going on.
Yep.
Because they were all grown up, fun, and, made funny jokes and all that stuff. And when they'd take a break, they'd go out blow a joint or something in the backyard. I couldn't pick up a guitar and play G.
Yep.
And I couldn't play a progression on the piano, but I could sit behind the drums and go bang, crash, tish, bang, what?
Yep.
And I also realised, or I thought anyway, that the real kind of energy and excitement was generated in that corner with that guy.
Yep.
It seemed to be everyone was sitting down or standing up and doing their thing, but it was also coming from this contraption over here. And I just watched a bunch of guys that John had play with him, and they were kind of, if I could go boom, 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 on the drums, they would go, oh, hold your hand like this and try that and let me raise the stool a bit. They were really lovely, and I that was this is a nice world to be in.
Yep.
Much better than mathematics or, reading books or anything like this. Was just this whole kind of beautiful, or sport, like I was hopeless at sport.
Right.
Dreadful.
So were you ever sitting in with those guys during the rehearsals and stuff like that, or just kind of having a bit of a hit when you got a chance?
I think it was more having a hit when I got a chance. I mean, I might have, I have been in a situation where someone's a young kid and they play a piano or the drums or something, and you get the boys that are there to sort of play along with them. So it probably happened to me. Yeah. But I just remember being able to kind of copy some of the beats, and also like the going back to the Beatles and everything. It seemed like you could go boom, cack, boom, cack, boom, like Ringo did. Yep. Or even tuck, 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 like beautiful, simple parts on the drums that kind of fool you into thinking it's really easy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was definitely like John and that environment. And also because it was the 60s and stuff. I mean, I was only a little kid in the 60s. Yep. But I do remember things like, television happening. And I remember for some reason there was that it was like James Brown or something was on the telly, black and white. I remember seeing that and just going, what is that? And then, it passed me by. It wasn't until 100 years later that I discovered sort of James Brown. But they're all these little flickers from being a real little kid, and having my elder brothers. John was really, and still is, instrumental in just we have the great raves, and he's a beautiful cat. He's wide knowledge of music. Yeah,
that's fantastic. So I suppose the next question would be why, but that kind of all is answered within those initial two. But so where and when? So how? Like you said, 9 or 10 when this was all kind of happening.
Well, I guess so. I mean, I can't remember. I think I did write something down, but I did write something down for this. But when we first tried to do it, I actually worked out what age I was what year it was when I was 10, and then what was happening to what Beatle record came out of. Yep. And I don't know, a piece of paper's gone, but I was a little kid. I didn't have any drums. I remember every Christmas I would ask my mum and dad for drums. And every Christmas I thought they'd give me some drums. I never got any drums. I got a lovely practice pad, the funny big black one that goes on the snare drum.
Yeah, right, yep.
I didn't have a snare drum, and I had some sticks. So obviously somebody who was very wise said, give him this first and see how he goes. And so I had that, which meant nothing to me really. And I would ask and ask and ask. ask and ask. A few Christmases went by, and I would ask. And I remember my best friend, who came from quite a wealthy family, said, "Well, I want a set of drums," and I seem to remember they were this really. I mean, maybe they weren't, but when I think back on them, they're probably these vintage Ludwig, just beautiful drums. And he didn't ever play them.
Yep.
Much. And they were set up in their garage. I used to walk past his house on the way home from school, and I would go in and play them pretty much every afternoon. It was just like, man, this is great. And I remember I could play bossa nova. And I think to myself, that's a pretty complicated little beat there, you know, for a little kid who's worked it, you know, nutted it out for himself. And I don't know where, you know, obviously some of those beautiful tunes, you know, or someone showed me what it was or whatever. But yeah.
Yep.
So eventually I got a set of drums. I got a little Riviera kit.
Yeah, right. Yep. The like made in Japan kind of copies.
Yeah. And I remember it was blue. I wish I still had it. It was blue, and I covered it. This is how young I was. I covered it in tinfoil. Yeah. So I must have been pretty young. You know.
But was that trying to copy somewhat? Was that trying to copy like a John Bonham stainless steel kit or something like that?
Maybe I don't know. I think it was just like blue. I want to be shiny and sparkly. I don't know. It seems weird, but I do remember doing that. I don't know where that set of drums went. Probably got thrown out. But yeah, I mean, funny, right?
So from then, like, what was your transition into then obviously becoming a player, starting to take it seriously, and like basically working relationships that have carried throughout that time?
Okay, well, we had a band at school.
Yep.
I was really lucky at school because there was a bunch of guys that wanted to play music. I remember vividly a friend of mine who was in a year or two higher than me, and he was considered like the guy, you know,
right,
that played the guitar, and he had a red Stratocaster.
Yep.
Like it was a proper Strat, you know.
Yep.
And Peter was he's the guy. And I remember vividly, it was in the hall, school hall, with the curtains closed on the stage. They had a little stage and everything. I used to do assembly there, you know, do all the stuff. And I heard this guitar playing, and I walked in the back stage, and there was a set of drums set up. I don't know. I think he had a band at school or something, but the drums were there.
Yep.
And I walked in, and he sort of looked at me like, you know, what do you want? And I probably said something like, oh, you know, I play the drums or something like that. And he said, and this is verbatim, he said, do you know Red House by Hendrix, or, you know, from the Hendrix, I don't know what the album is. And I said yes, because I actually did know it. And then he went, down, down, wow, 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 spang, and off I went. And we were friends forever then. And we had a trio with a bass player.
Yep.
Called Slam the Cootamundra Band. You know, I'm talking, I guess, I'm 15 now. So
yep.
14, 15, I guess, in main school. And so this was like my focus. I hated schoolwork. I was really bad at it. I'm dyslexic.
Right.
So, and I didn't know that back then. I've never really been tested, but I know that I'm dyslexic because I look at a chart and I'm just like, you know, and I have to really, when I'm reading books, which I love, I have to really calm myself down, concentrate, and read from left to right, and all that. So I was really bad at schoolwork. I was really bad on the sports field. I developed a very good sense of humour because my parents were into the Goons and everything.
Yep.
Back in the day, Peter Sellers and Spike Milligan, everybody. So I had a good sort of sense of humour, and that saved me socially.
Right.
And music was the thing. I remember thinking, if I can get this shit happening, I might have a chance.
Right.
And I love it. You know,
Yep.
like it's not actually a big deal. It's not like I have to work out how to be excited, but I was so into it.
Yeah.
So there were bands at school. Then later on, there was another band. He left school. Before I left school, there was another band, which was a band called Jimmy and the Boys, which became sort of semi-famous, or I should, in case they ever hear it, very famous. I left that band. They had a guy called Ignatius Jones, who's Monica Trapper's brother. I don't know if you know him.
Right.
But anyway, he was the lead singer, and we used to let him out of a basket in this pub we played in that was full of underage school kids. It was packed because it was the place to be. We just happened to play there on Saturday nights.
Yep.
And we would play like funk tunes and, you know, Red Baron and stuff like that. I was underage. And then we would let Iggy out at the end of the night, and he would sing The Slime from Frank Zappa. I am the slime from the radio. And something else, Shaky Ground or something.
Mm-hmm.
And the place would go nuts. And I remember thinking, this band will be, you know, he will be the main thing of this band, which of course happened. And it wasn't my thing. I was a bit of a jazz snob when I was a kid, you know, as I found out about jazz and that style of music versus, I don't know, the Rolling Stones or something. I went, oh, well, I can't listen to Rolling Stones anymore. I've got to listen to sort of Light as a Feather or, you know, was getting into the 70s and all that. So I didn't stick with those guys, and they went off to, you know, they toured Australia. They were like a touring band. They did a lot of stuff, made records, the whole thing, you know. But great. I mean, great. It was great fun playing in that band with those guys. They were great guys. And again, it was that community of people that I didn't have to be, you know, an academic or whatever, you know. I didn't have to compete in. I loved what I was doing in the music world. It was fantastic for me.
Yep. After that, so, where did you kind of end up after leaving that band?
Well, it was all around the time that I finished school.
Yep.
And I don't know if they do it now, but back in the day, you could some people would leave 2 years before the full, you know, however many years school was.
Yep.
You could leave in fourth year, it was called.
Right.
And a lot of kids would leave then. It was like the kids that left them then got a trade.
A trade, yeah, like, right.
He clearly doesn't want to be here. And, you know, maybe he can change tires or something. That was the attitude if you left early.
Right.
And I was thinking, I'm the fuck out of here. You know, I'm gone. And the amount of pressure from everybody that I could see happening to anybody that was saying that, I just thought, you know what? I'm going to stay here because I can't deal with confrontation, and I have never been able to deal with confrontation. A little bit I can now. And I thought, I'm going to stick around here for 2 years, and I'm going to spend my time in the music department, and I'm just going to practice in one of those little rooms. And that's what I did. And they used to come, you know, kids would come and knock on the door and say, man, you're meant to be at maths. You know, Mr. So-and-so's sent me to get you. And I'll go, okay. And I'll go back. And then the next day in maths period, I'd be up there practicing the same. They'd let me go for a few days, and then someone would come and get me. And, you know.
That sounds remarkably similar to my year 11 and year 12 experience.
Yeah. I mean, if you've got to be there, it's a great sort of, and I mean, I sang in the choir, and we had band stuff that performed at school functions. So it's like, and they actually let me off the sport thing. They used to do the thing where, you know, it was football season, and every child had to go down to such and such oval, and I'd get put into the Ds, and then, you know, on the following Wednesday, there would be all the notices on the board, and you'd see Stuart, you know, you're in the 15 Ds or something. And then in the last 2 years, I didn't go to that thing. And that was the other thing. If you didn't show up, you got like 2 hours detention and
Right.
go and talk to someone about what team you're going to be in. But I didn't go. I didn't get the detention. No one said anything. I didn't say anything. It was like, give him a break. And I thought, wow, it's amazing. You know, I'm just going to keep working on this shit, you know.
Yep.
And so that was good. And so by the time I got out of school, I could sort of play the drums. You know, I could play beats, and
yep.
if you told me you wanted to do, you know, whatever, Honky Tonk Woman or something, or, you know, Shower the People, James Taylor, or, you know, like, I could sort of play those songs, and Shaky Ground, you know, things like that.
So at this point, had you started playing much jazz or like just improvised music in general, or
well,
not quite yet?
I mean, I think in the last couple of years that was the sort of change, because one thing my brother did too very early on was one Christmas or birthday, he gave me it was Buddy Rich, Mercy, Mercy, Mercy. Is that the album?
Yep.
Or is that the song? That's the song. It's the album, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is,
One
yeah.
Sweet Song.
Yep.
Yeah. And I mean, I remember just being, you know, like, wow, that's amazing, you know,
Yep.
it's amazing. And I remember a couple of weeks or a couple of months later, John sort of going, oh, God, don't tell me I've spawned a kind of big band drummer.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want that. I don't want that to happen. I just wanted to excite him a bit, you know.
Yep.
And so the next year or the next birthday, because my birthday's really close to Christmas, so maybe he did it real quick in the next 2 weeks. He gave me Elvin Jones' Dear John C.
Right.
Which is a beautiful, you know, it's the most with Thingo Hannah, and you know, it's really beautiful, and it's Elvin on cruise control, you know.
Yeah.
If I can be so sort of vulgar as to say something like that. I mean, it's just so beautifully accessible and so swinging and just sounds so great. And I just fell in love with that record, and I fell in love with Elvin. I just so fell in love with that guy. And then I think in those last few years of school, and we're talking the 70s, so 75, 76, 77, around that time, and so much shit happened. Like so much music in so many areas was just absolutely thrilling. So that was kind of the beginning of me sort of looking at, you know, Donny Hathaway Live and Sly Stone, you know, all those, and then, you know, the rock, Little Richard and all this sort of stuff, all that scene. I mean, that's a couple of scenes there, but, you know, like that sort of area.
Yep.
And then you've got Elvin, and where does he sort of, who's he? So you kind of, oh, Coltrane, and then, oh, who's he? And then, you know, like all of a sudden, oh my God, there's this avalanche of music, and then you've got Chick Corea, and also the drummers. I mean, I was so into the drummers. I remember thinking about, you know, like I had Alphonse Mouzon records, his solo records, you know, Tony Williams, you know, Lifetime. I mean, I didn't understand any of it. And, you know, like Tony's singing is pretty scary, but it was like, I would listen to that stuff because it was thrilling. And so there was all of that going on around me, and I was trying to sort of work out, like listening to Danny was amazing because he's got such a thing, whereas mine was just this sort of scrambled eggs, really good scrambled eggs, like the best scrambled eggs you've ever eaten. It was, Marvin Gaye over here and sort of, I don't know, Anthony Braxton over here, like it was really kind of, wow, it was an explosion for me.
Yep.
And I kind of, after a while, I sort of started to dig it all. Certainly now, I mean, I'm very open about my music. I think.
Totally, and it's funny that you mention just the love for Elvin, because no matter what I hear you play, anything, it has that. To me, I experience that feeling of that Elvin feeling. No matter what it is you're playing, whether it's like a swinging thing, like a backbeat thing, there's just that feeling to it that just makes me think Elvin all the time. So beautiful.
Wow. Well, that's an I don't know. I might shrink. I don't know what to say about that. But I do. I'll tell you a funny thing. I'll tell you a funny story. If you've got time.
Absolutely.
I've got weeks.
Do you have to be anywhere, anytime?
I was lucky enough to see Elvin. What was that?
I said, do you have to be anywhere at any time? Do you have to put a cap on this?
No. I've got to meet Em at 4, so that's pretty good. It's 20 past 2 now. Unless my watch is set. I've got to tell you the story. So my brother went to live in London, sort of pretty much immediately after he left school. He just split and left, and I was like his best pupil, and then he kind of left me on my own. So there I was. Anyway, Mum and Dad, after he'd been away for some time, and I think they realised that I was an idiot at school. And my father had just retired, so they decided that they would go to London to see John. Right. And they took me with them. And so I'm a young boy, wound up in London. I saw Miles play at the Rainbow with Tingo Foster. What's his name?
Al Foster.
Al Foster. And Toomey on the congas and Michael Henderson playing that. I mean, it was I didn't understand the fucking thing. It looked amazing. Miles looked amazing. Dressed, and it was just so great. So, I got to see Elvin. Now, the funny thing was that back in those days, the only information really, like there was no DVDs or any of that stuff. There was no YouTube. There was nothing, You might get an article in Downbeat magazine where somebody mentioned doing something with Elvin and talked about him, or, there might be an article on Max Roach or something in Downbeat magazine, and he would talk about music and what have you, but there wasn't a lot of information. Like I had a teacher for a while who was really great.
Right.
And I was introduced to, Stick Control and Ted Reed and those things. They were kind of still other Bibles, I guess, for beginners and, advanced drummers alike. But so I remember thinking, I'm going to see Elvin Jones if I can get in. Like I was a teenager.
Yep.
And I thought, I wonder if I'm actually going to be able to get in, or they're just going to turn me away at the door. And so my headset was, I'm going to see Elvin Jones, this master drummer, play the drums, and I'm going to get like the magic wand on the shoulder, like I'm going to get the technique, I'm going to get everything, I'm going to get just the master lesson of how to play the drums out, where your wrist is and which finger's here, and what kind of you know, just the whole shtick on dynamics, you know, tuning. You know, I'm just going to get this universal lesson from the master.
Yep.
So I'm terrified. I walk up to the club. I go take a deep breath. I walk the giant African American bouncer at the door. You know, like giant. Yeah, okay. You know, and I walk past him. I'm thinking, this is it. He's going to say, "What are you doing?" I walk past. I go up. I get my ticket. I'm standing at this sort of, you know, velvet sort of curtain doorway that leads you into the club, and I hear from behind me, "Yeah, you know, yeah, right." And there's all this commotion, and I turn around, and there is Elvin. I mean, maybe I was just totally, well, I was totally in awe, but he seemed to be about 7 feet tall.
Right.
He was wearing canary yellow tracksuit, like it was brand new, with Elvin Jones Jazz Machine written on the front of it, with his beautiful fish medallion sort of necklace thing that he wore hanging over the top, and just this incredible smile and rave with the people that were kind of on the door and the bouncer and the whole thing. Like he was larger than, I mean, it was amazing. I was just overtaken. I thought jazz was very serious. Yep. That was the thing. I was going to get the lesson. It was going to be silent. It was going to be very deep. It was going to be very intense. And, you know, it was very heavy. It was going to be very, very heavy. And it was like, my God, what is this? So that was my first thing. Then I get to the table. I'm sitting at the table. I'm quite close to the bandstand, which is amazing. And they come out. Ronnie does this rave, you know, bad jokes and the whole thing. And then the band comes on, and I swear to God, it was like within 16 bars of the first tune that they played, Elvin had swung the sticks around. He was playing butt ends, both hands, match grip. You know, you're not allowed to raise the hockey stick above his shoulder in hockey. He was going, it was, I mean, every preconception about everything that I ever thought about anything.
Just out the door.
About being human, about playing music, about playing the drums, about what you do, who does, why do I, you know, the whole thing was just smashed by Elvin Jones and Rio Kawasaki on the guitar. I remember the band, great band. And I was just like, you know, and I went back the next night, and the next night I was so thrilled. And it was like, you know, I mean, talk about the energy in the corner. I mean, he was at the front of the stage, but like the drum kit and the power of music and I don't know, just the incredible spirit that, you know, whether you knew it or not, you couldn't help but just be moved by that. And that was hugely game changing for me. It was like when you play the drums, like whatever you're doing, if you're playing a ballad, it's got to have that, you know, it's got to have the thing. And you know, when you know, just, I don't know, something.
Yeah.
Something you can be. I'm, you know, I was going to say you can be a great technician, and that's a marvelous thing, you know. And obviously you need technique to be able to, you know, clean your teeth, but it's like to have that. I don't know. Maybe it's just I was ready for it, or I wasn't. Actually, I wasn't. You know, I was so for it. You know, that's probably the thing. You know, it was just like he just grabbed me by the ankles and hung me out the window of a 48-story building, like
Yep.
and shook me. You know,
yeah, absolutely.
It was like Sonny Jim from Sydney. You know, you sweet little kid. You think you got your paradiddles happening, you know, or whatever I thought. I don't know what I thought.
Yeah.
But
It's I can't even imagine what that would be like, but it's that thing where the feeling and the spirit completely just transcends the instrument. It makes the instrument just seem not almost irrelevant to a degree when it's what you're actually just bringing to the table. That is really what it's about, rather than just exactly that, what the stick heights for your paradiddles are, or so on and so forth. It's the essence that you are able to contribute to it.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree with you totally. It's like it transcends the instrument. And I remember, you know, a lot of years later, and probably in the last maybe 15 years or something, I saw Simon Barker play, and I remember saying to him after that you know, and he was very modest about it all, but I said, you know, you seem to have gotten to this stage now where there's actually more happening than what you're doing on the drums. Like, I'm going hot on, he didn't do that, but that is happening. You know, it's like what you said, there's another thing, there's, you know, whether it's joy or commitment or passion or spirit or touching your spirit or uniting something, people, whatever, I don't know, but it's, yeah, that's such a thing. And and Elvin just had it in spades. I think it was just, I think it was a natural thing for those guys.
Yep.
To that was what they were doing. Like,
yep.
I think, look, that's a whole other way. Like, you know, just the kind of the technical side of playing the instrument. I mean, one thing that COVID has sort of reignited in me is the personality of the people behind the instruments. You know, like, I think that's sort of what I can hear that. Maybe it takes a certain person to be able to hear it. I don't know, and obviously the study of the instrument is a wonderful thing and a great, you know, great benefit, and we all do. You know, I'm not saying don't. It's just like, I don't know this. How do you explain that?
Exactly. How do you explain it? It's just it's that like really strange place of unquantifiables. You can't explain what it is. There's no way to measure it, but there's a thing. Like, why does your head explode when you hear Steve Gadd playing the same groove you hear a 9-year-old kid playing? Like,
exactly.
You know, there's just, there's time, there's consistency, all of those things, but there's just another thing beyond the actual like mechanics and physicality of it that is just completely unquantifiable.
Yeah, and I guess that's sort of, I don't know. I mean, you want to. I want to have a feeling when I'm playing. I guess there's like Charlie Watts always said, I think I read once, I saw an interview where he said, you know, if I can see people dancing, I know I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's kind of that's so beautiful. Like, that's such a beautiful thing. Or you see people tapping their foot, you know, like,
yeah, absolutely.
It's you're just digging or they're digging the piano solo that you happen to be playing behind, and you know that it's getting across. And that's important. I think that's sort of important to me, and it's also something, you know, like, one thing along those lines. That what still amazes me is that, you know, you can hear a Stevie Wonder, like I can hear a Stevie Wonder record that I absolutely adored, you know, when it came out in the 70s, and I can hear a tune walking past a cafe or something, and I still get that feeling.
Yep.
You know, it's like almost the same. It's almost like being young again or something. You get that, the same you know, it's almost like the same amount as well. Like it's like a gift that keeps giving, you know, like
Yeah.
it's just thrilling, that stuff.
Yeah.
And to have that in your life, for me, is just, you know, marvelous.
Yep. So now we've kind of covered a few things, like a few influences and stuff like that. But let's try and dig into some of the like artists or bands that have had particularly big influences, and then maybe some albums from those artists, and so on and so forth. Anything in particular that's standing out that's kind of just been like completely either changed direction or really had a massive impact on you?
So yeah, I mean, I guess there's things along the way. I guess the Coltrane records. Oh, well, let's go back to the beginning. I mean, the sort of rock things, the Beatles and the Stones, all of those records,
Yep.
all the Stones records, all about, you know, 70 something, the late 70s. I can probably, you know, sing along with or whatever, you know what's going on. And all the Beatle records, so all that stuff. And then, you know, there was sort of Chick Corea, all that jazz rock thing that happened. Like that was a very big thing for me, because that was when I was really, like, I think kids, certainly my son, he was really bowled over by metal.
Right.
You know, which I was like, oh my God. But, you know, that's a bit scary for me. But obviously I won't say fusion because I prefer the term jazz rock, because I think that was sort of when it was almost palatable. But that was like the shit was really happening. It was full on, a lot of drums. You know, I was a kid. There was a lot of drums. Billy Cobham, you know, all those guys. I mean, I got right into the drums, and also, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, like the session guys. That was another thing, like the James Taylor, sort of Russ Kunkel, you know, what's his name? Steve's friend, Rick Marotta. Yeah, all those kind of, like I sort of had this singer-songwriter thing going on, as well as the jazz, as well as the kind of rock thing. And so the singer-songwriter thing had all of, like, the LA session guys and the rhythm sections and everything. You start to realize who's playing on what. Yep. The same with the jazz records, playing on what. And then probably through those the jazz rock records, I started to go back into the more traditional jazz things.
Right.
And, you know, like, someone would mention, you know, there was a lineage. I go, what does that mean? Yep. I go, so Tony Williams got, you know, this from sort of Blakey, or I go, oh yeah, Art Blakey, yeah, I've heard of him, you know. Yep. And so all of a sudden the jazz, and again, you know, like Blakey, Jesus, when I heard that, it was like, my God, this guy's like, he's like the heaviest cat, like, bam. You know, again, it's that thing. It's just like a steamroller, you know.
Yeah.
And for a young guy who's trying to get ding 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 ding, you know, like he's just so heavy, you know.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Great. Man, you know, like bang, crash wallop. Oh, give me more of that. You know, I don't know how to do it, but. You know.
So you kind of ended up getting back to that stuff through like the music of your time. So. Like getting into the jazz rock stuff is kind of what got you to go backwards?
Yeah. I mean, I had, when I first sort of heard the Coltrane stuff, as I said, you know, I was way too young, or maybe not, I don't know, but for me personally, it was like, I don't know, you know, they're all playing at once. You know, like, what is that? You know,
yeah.
and I just didn't understand. But I got, it was like I got the energy level of it, and the sort of the I think maybe the message. I got the message. It was like a messenger I couldn't take, like the band. It was too much.
Yeah.
And so I actually went back to that. But yeah, I also, I must say, as a teenager, there was a big venue that all the international acts played at called the Hordern Pavilion in Sydney. And we saw like Bob Marley, Frank Zappa, you know, Barry White with the Love Unlimited Orchestra, you know, like full orchestra in white suits. Great rhythm section, my God. Yeah, so all these sort of touring bands that came through, you know, and I was a kid, you know, smoke a joint, go in with your mates, buy a cheap ticket up the back, and then the lights went down and run down the front and sit in the aisle, you know, hope no one's going to move you on.
Yep.
Watch the rhythm, you know. So all of this stuff was going on. There was, you know, I saw the Rolling Stones in the 70s.
Yeah,
know,
right. Wow.
Stuff. Yeah. I mean, really amazing. You know, well, I don't really remember, but I mean, I remember being there, but I don't know. But I'm assuming it was amazing.
You'd hope so.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it was kind of a bit. It wasn't like I went, I'm going to be a jazz drummer, or I'm going to be all that. I really loved. I did come around to loving it all, and then I guess the ability to sort of work somehow, you know, can I make a living? You know, can I actually do this?
Yep.
Is it possible to do this? So I just answered the phone, and I had some, you know, really great breaks, and I got to play with really great people, or get to play, you know, still, I can't believe it, play with great people, and actually, you know, pay the bills from behind a couple of pieces of wood, you know.
Yep.
And that really kind of, that was the other thing, like where the work was and the sort of music I was playing. I was very much involved in those styles while I was there, but probably back in the hotel room, I was listening to something, you know, like, you know, Jack DeJohnette or something. You know, I remember being in a band once, and we were touring all over Australia. This chick had a platinum selling record at the time, and so we were just working all the time. But no, we would never put any music on in the car. We could only listen to headphones, because everybody hated everything that everybody else wanted to listen to.
Right.
I mean, amazing, right? but it was a great, you know, it was really good. It was a great little moment, but it was so funny. You can, how about no, don't do
just
off. You know, that's really bugging. Funny.
Yeah, classic.
Funny.
So after the like rock stuff and like the initial like Beatles, Rolling Stones, and all of that, anything in the like, you know, the studio stuff that particularly got you hooked? I know you're a massive Keltner fan. What was your kind of like Keltner moment?
Oh God. Well, I guess the sort of Bob Dylan things he did, but even that, I mean, I probably went back to that. He was a name that kept coming up all the time.
Just on credits.
Stuff. I mean, yeah, and I mean, I remember thinking that guy's very different to everybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody has their thing, like, you know, whether it's Vaccaro, Keltner, you know, Steve Ferroni, or, you know, Bernard Purdy, you know, like, or, you know, that's the sort of, you know, it goes on and on and on. And there's so many other guys, actually. One of the good things, through this COVID business is I've hooked up a little bit with Michael Iverson, who's a great drummer in Sydney, and he's stuck quite a few suburbs away, but he's been sending me these beautiful playlists of some incredible drummers, some of which that I know quite a bit of the music, but I didn't know that one guy played on all these things.
Yeah, right.
And they're all in a playlist. And, you know, there's so many, I mean, America is just, you know, yeah, there's so many people, great musicians and great cats. But yeah, so the session guys were quite a thing, you know, back in the day. It was, and I was doing a bit of studio work back then too. It was pretty amazing. I'm very lucky to have had that experience very early on and feel very comfy in a studio. You know, get a decent headphone mix and away we go. You know, it's quite fun.
So in regards to the studio work that you were doing, are there any things like over the years in particular that you're super proud of or would like people to check out or anything like that think are like a good representation of you?
Well, I guess things I really like, I mean, I'm all, you know, it's always a bit scary listening to yourself back, but as the years go by, it's not so bad because it all starts to sound like music, which is a good thing. And I'm not so, I remember the feeling when I was just about to play that fill and it just sounds awful. You know, like I've forgotten about the feeling that I had when I was just about to play that silly fill, you know, and it just sounds like something goes past like another song.
Yeah.
But probably, you know, people like, well, obviously Lucy Thorne, who's been a great mate over the last sort of 10 years or something now, I think. And we've made a bunch of records, myself and her, Chris Abrahams, Dave Symes, and all sorts of people, Carl Dewhurst on them, you know, different singers, and not too many different singers, but a couple of backing vocals have been on those things. But Lucy's great, and I love her. You've seen the duet thing we do, which is really a lovely, you know, it's a beautiful way to play the drums with her. So I love those things. I've been working with Don Walker. He's an amazing songwriter. I feel very, very lucky to be working with him, to be around that sort of level of songwriting, and to try and realise what he wants for that music, which is great. And it's a band again, you know, like it's actually, we've been together for quite a while, so that his music's really good.
Right.
I really love that. There's Barney Mccall and Barney who's in Melbourne now, lived in New York for years and years, and he is a very, very dear friend of mine and an incredible inspiration musically and also as a human. Like, he's just a great cat, you know, he's a great spirit, and I've had the great fortune to do some things with him over the years, which I mean, he sort of puts me in another level where I'm, you know, really reaching, I'm just trying to work out a way, not sort of walk in and go, yeah, I'm going to do this to that. I'm going to do this to your music.
Man,
you know,
that live recording of Apple Tree with you and Jonathan, just the recording of that tune is unbelievable. I love the feeling of that.
Is that the Wayne Garetta one?
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah. Yeah, amazing. I mean, he's like, he's one of those guys. I mean, I've been lucky to be around people like him, like Phil Trelaw, the drummer. Well, he's a composer now. And I had an incredible time with him. And Phil was, man, he really opened me up, like, in a huge way to a lot of things that I probably would never have gotten to just poked around at. But yeah, so Phil Trelaw's another cat to check out, like his website and his compositions of music and history. I mean, he's
Absolutely.
incredible. Jonathan, of course, Jonathan Swartz, beautiful records he's made that again, we're good friends, and I'm doing things with him. And now his daughter, Martha Marlowe,
Yep.
she's done a record which is really beautiful. That's sort of like do you call it a pop record? I don't know. It's a singer-songwriter kind of. She sings these beautiful songs she's written. Jonathan wrote the strings on it, and I was lucky to play in the rhythm section on the record, and so that's a beautiful thing. And Jade McRae, there's another one currently. These are all, I guess, the things that are happening over the last few years.
Yep.
Jade's record, which is a beautiful sort of soul record, I guess you'd call it. We're all in the studio playing at the same time, and no click tracks, and her original music and her singing at the same time. I think she did maybe a few overdubs or whatever vocal things, but generally speaking, I think most of it went down when we played it.
It's a great sounding record. It is really, really nice, and she's just unbelievable on it. Just absolutely smoking.
Like that, and that's how everyone used to record back in the day. You had to play songs from beginning to end.
So I just want to ask you. So how long have you and Jonathan been playing together?
Well, I don't know. Probably. I do know. It's got to be since the 90s. So if you do the maths, you'll know.
Yeah, right. 20, 30 years kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I've had the incredible. I've had a great run with bass players. Let me tell you. If there's any reason why I'm still here, it's because of those cats. And I must say, working with Tina Harrod and in particular Tina and Jackie Ozarski, Jack was such a trip. He's a great, again like Barney, like this incredible figure.
Yep.
I've had a few of those guys in my life, and they've been very patient with me. And help me to understand a few really great things, which I carry with me today. Jack was just he was just a fun cat. We had a great time, I played with him when he played the bass and sang back in the day, when he had Jump Back Jack and. Which was a mighty band. We were like a dance band, we used to do all these, some originals and some James Brown things, and work 5 or 6 nights a week in Sydney. Work hard, like 3 sets, long sets, full on playing, like full tilt, funk it up, like get those people on the dance floor and hold them. And we did. It was great. And he had side projects like the Industrial Accident and the Hungarian Rap Sadists, 2 different bands. So it's three repertoires happening at the same time, all completely different. Just so mad and great, and there were places to play all these different styles of music. Like the pubs where you get them dancing, and clubs you get them dancing, and then you have these spaces, sort of more artistic spaces where you can play all this crazy shit, and there were people there, like it was great. And then he got a small band, which was the Godmothers, which was just completely sort of funk-driven small band. Chris Abraham's on Hammond, Arnie Hanna on guitar, Jack playing bass, 2 girls singing backing vocals. It was just, and you just sit in, I hate the term pocket, but you just sit in that pocket all night. All you do is just play groove. It was great.
Yep. No, that's
If
fantastic.
I got too creative, I'd get a bad look from Arnie over his shoulder, just look at me like, what are you doing? Stay put, okay. I just wanted to hear. I mean, in those days, I played bass drum, snare, hats, and crash and ride. I didn't even bring any toms.
No toms.
It's all about just it was great.
Yeah, fantastic. Anything else that you'd let's say some young musicians or old musicians, middle-aged musicians, anyone wants to check out something happening, anything that you'd go, all right, this is something that I think you need to check out or should check out, music-wise, band-wise?
You mean anybody in particular?
Just anyone, yeah, anyone.
Well, wow. I mean, that's a very big question.
Yeah, I know. I have no idea what I'm doing with this, man. I'm all over the place. Yeah. I'm just jumping around.
No, it's good. It's good. I mean, yeah, look, I guess just be open to it all and find people that turn you on and get them to tell you what they like, which I guess is what you're asking me. I mean, oh, look, God, where do you start? I mean, I was talking, there's a Paul Motion documentary just out.
Just came out, yeah.
Motion. Yeah, I just watched, I just thought that I love him. Like, that guy can do no wrong. What a character, as well, a personality, But yeah, I mean, all of his music as a leader is amazing. And I guess all the ECM, like the ECM things, that is beautiful too. Like the whole different sort of soundscape. And then, then you get people like, I mean, ECM still producing music. I was going to say that I guess it's always, I'm kind of looking back all the time. Apart from the stuff I'm involved in now. But I mean, like for instance, Donald Fagen just put out a live version of Nightfly.
Really?
And there's a live, you want to check that out.
Is it Keith Carlock playing drums on it?
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't believe I've missed that. I'm going to have to check that out.
And there's a live Steely Dan record called Eastern Corridor or something.
Right.
It's the same, a different band, but Keith's on that too. But yeah, I mean, they're both great records, I think. But they're, it's old music. Like Nightfly's got to be 1,000 years old now, right? But it's just so great. And yeah, well, I mean, what am I listening to? See, I just have all my stuff on the shuffle on the iPhone. When I'm driving around or whatever, it just comes on. It could be Paul Motion one moment, it'd be Frank live at the Sands, like, I mean, listen to Count Basie. But I mean, I'll go down that rabbit hole, like you just like hear that and go, my God, like,
yeah,
I've got to listen to Count Basie for the rest of my life. Really funny, isn't it? Or I've got videos on my phone. I was lucky enough to be in New York, and my wife ran the marathon. She runs it for the both of us, which is good. I think it's this year, isn't it, darling? And it was ECM's something or other anniversary.
I think we caught up just after you got back from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I'm sitting in the mezzanine thing above the stage. I've got the cheap ticket right above the stage. I've got my phone. It's like no phones allowed. I mean, fuck that. I'm from Sydney, man. I can't see. And like Jack, I mean, there's incredible musicians on stage. I've got so much of the stuff. I mean, I do the thing where I take a bit of footage just to remember I was there. And then I say, you have to just let the stuff, you're here.
Yep.
let it do it. But I did get these shots of Jack DeJohnette, some video footage. And again, you know, like I'm sort of scrolling through my phone trying to find a photograph of something. I said, oh, shit, I remember that. I play that. And then it's like, oh, I've got to listen to Jack DeJohnette for the rest of my life, you know?
Yeah.
The Zigaboo Mona Lisa, you know, like, oh, man, it just happens to me so much. You know, I just get caught on these things that just turn me on. So in terms of new music, it's really hard. It's probably stuff.
Sorry, go on.
It's probably stuff that I go and see. Like I saw Scott Tinkler play at the 505 before the COVID thing.
Yeah, right.
You know, Simon Barker played solo drums at the same venue during the same bunch of shows. I saw Chris Abrahams play solo. You know, like those, it's like mind blowing. I mean, you know, you've got it in Brisbane, they've got it in Melbourne. There's, you know, most beautiful musicians doing stuff. And I guess I can't answer the question because I haven't been out to see anything very much.
Yep. Oh, well, thanks so much for your time today, Hamish. I've really enjoyed having the chance to have a chat, and I appreciate you taking the time to do this. I'm still trying to figure out exactly how it all works, but basically I just love a rave and thought that, you know, it'd be good for other people to sit in on the raves.
Yeah, man. Look, I'm honoured that you called, and I just, you know, it is great. And I've got so much time at the moment. Are you kidding? I'm trying to thumbs up.